My sister dumped her 2 kids on my doorstep at 3 a.m. and disappeared. 2 years later, she came back drunk, screaming that I stole her children, and then claimed one of them is my wife. I've replayed that night in my head so many times that it almost feels like a bad dream, one that never quite ends. It was 3:07 a.m. on a freezing January morning in Portland, Oregon. I remember because I'd just gotten home from my second job, an overnight shift at a printing warehouse. My wife, Hannah, was asleep upstairs, and our dog, Duke, started barking like crazy. I thought maybe a raccoon had gotten into the trash again. But when I opened the door, it wasn't a raccoon. It was my sister, Melissa. She was standing there barefoot, wearing pajama pants and an oversized hoodie, her mascara smeared down her face. In one hand, she was clutching a half-empty bottle of vodka, and in the other, a crumpled trash bag. And behind her on my porch were 2 little kids, my nieces. Lily, 6 years old, holding onto her little brother Evan, who couldn't have been more than 3. "Mark," she slurred, "they're yours now. I can't do this anymore." At first, I thought she was joking or drunk and ranting like she always did. But then she dropped the trash bag with a dull thud, and I realized it was full of their clothes, a few toys, and some half-used diapers. "Melissa, what the hell are you talking about?" I asked, stepping outside despite the cold. "Where are you going?" She shrugged, eyes glassy. "Vegas, with Tony. We're starting over. You always said you'd help if I needed it, right?" Before I could respond, she kissed Lily on the head, muttered something like "be good," and walked down the street. No car, no goodbye, just gone. Hannah came downstairs, wrapped in a blanket, rubbing her eyes. When she saw the kids, her face changed completely. Concern, disbelief, and heartbreak all at once. We tried calling Melissa's phone, but it was disconnected by morning. That was the night I became a father of 2 kids that weren't mine. At first, we thought maybe it was temporary. Maybe Melissa was just having a breakdown, maybe she'd come back in a few days, but weeks turned into months. We found out from her old roommate that she'd run off to Nevada with her 19-year-old boyfriend, a guy she met online named Tony, who apparently had a big plan to make money playing poker. She blocked everyone on social media, even our parents. I tried filing for temporary custody to protect the kids legally. The social worker at the Family Services office, Mrs. Duran, was kind but blunt. "If your sister doesn't come back soon, these children could end up in foster care. You need to make this official." So we did. We cleaned out the spare room, repainted it light blue, and bought bunk beds. Lily refused to sleep alone at first. She'd wake up screaming from nightmares about the dark hotel. Evan barely spoke for the first 2 months. Hannah took time off from work, she's a nurse, to get them settled. We got Lily into therapy, found Evan a pediatrician, and started a new routine. Slowly, they started calling our house home. One night as I tucked Lily in, she asked, "Uncle Mark, do you think Mommy remembers us?" I lied and said yes. But the truth, I didn't think she did. Melissa missed 4 court summons for child welfare evaluations. The state granted us full custody after 9 months. It wasn't what I wanted, but it was what those kids needed. I was angry at my sister, angry at myself for always enabling her. She'd always been the wild one, the free spirit. Our parents spoiled her, made excuses for her. I was the one cleaning up her messes since we were teenagers. But abandoning your children, that was something I never imagined she could do. Lily started calling Hannah Mom around that time. We didn't correct her. A year passed, no word, no calls, no letters. Just silence. Then, out of nowhere, Melissa's face popped up on Instagram. She was in Las Vegas, posting pictures with Tony, partying at pool clubs, holding champagne, captioning her photos with things like "new beginnings, clinking glasses," and "no more drama." Meanwhile, I was working overtime to afford her kids' therapy bills. Hannah and I decided to move to a better neighborhood, closer to a good school district. Things were finally stabilizing. Until the night everything came crashing down again. It was a Tuesday afternoon when I got the call from the school principal. "Mr. Bennett, you need to come down here right now. It's about your sister." When I arrived, Melissa was in the school hallway drunk. Her hair was matted, her makeup smeared. She was screaming at the top of her lungs, "You stole my Bobbies, Mark. Give them back." Lily was crying in the corner while a teacher tried to comfort her. Evan was hiding behind a desk. When I tried to calm Melissa down, she swung her purse at me, spilling pills and a cracked phone across the floor. Security escorted her out while she screamed obscenities. Parents were filming. It was humiliating. The police didn't arrest her that day. They said she needed help, not jail. But that incident triggered another court case. She wanted to reclaim her children. The court, however, saw through it. She missed 2 more hearings, failed her drug test, and disappeared again. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. 6 months later, at 3 a.m., déjà vu. Duke barking again, but this time it was Melissa on the porch. It was Child Protective Services. A woman named Tara stood at my door with a clipboard. "Mr. Bennett, we received a report of abuse and neglect toward 2 minors under your care." I was stunned. "What? Who reported that?" She wouldn't say, but I knew. Melissa. They inspected the house, interviewed the kids. Tara saw their clean rooms, the artwork on the fridge, their school trophies, and I could tell she knew the truth. She apologized quietly before leaving. "This kind of thing happens more often than you'd think, Mr. Bennett." That was the night I realized my sister wasn't just unstable, she was dangerous. After the CPS visit, I didn't sleep for days. Every sound outside made my stomach twist. I kept checking the locks, walking down the hall to peek into Lily and Evan's room just to make sure they were still there, safe, asleep, breathing. I wasn't paranoid, I was preparing, because deep down I knew my sister wasn't finished with us. And I was right. A few weeks after CPS cleared us, strange things started happening. Someone keyed Hannah's car outside the hospital where she worked, carved the words "thief" into the paint. Then an anonymous Facebook account began commenting under our posts, "Those kids aren't yours." Our mailbox started filling with threatening letters, all unsigned, all written in the same shaky handwriting. One of them said, "You can't keep them forever, Mark. I'll get my Bobbies back." Hannah was terrified. I tried to act calm, but inside I was boiling. Melissa had vanished for years. Now she wanted to play mother. The police couldn't do much. "Unless she makes a direct threat or trespasses, our hands are tied," the officer said. So I installed cameras, changed our locks, and put up motion lights. For a while it worked. Until she came back again. It was late September, a cool Friday night. Hannah was at work for an overnight shift, and the kids were asleep upstairs. I was doing dishes when Duke started growling at the back door. Then came the knock, soft, frantic, almost desperate. When I opened the door, Melissa was there, shivering in a thin jacket, mascara streaked again. Her hair was a tangled mess, and her eyes were bloodshot. "Please, Mark," she whispered, "I just want to see them." I hesitated. Every instinct screamed no. But she looked so broken, so hollow, I couldn't slam the door in her face. "You can't come in," I said quietly. "They're asleep. You need to get help, Melissa." She stepped closer. "Help? You think you're so much better than me, living in your nice house with my kids." "Your kids?" I snapped. "You abandoned them. You left them crying on my porch like garbage." Her face twisted with rage. "You don't understand what I was going through. Tony left me. I was sick." I cut her off. "You disappeared for 2 years. You didn't call once. You don't get to play the victim now." She lunged forward suddenly, trying to push past me into the house. Duke barked so loud it shook the walls. I shoved the door closed and locked it just as she started pounding on it, screaming. You stole my life. They were mine. The neighbors called the cops. By the time they arrived, she was gone. That night, I sat on the floor outside the kids' room, just listening to their breathing. That's when I realized love can make you protective beyond reason, but fear can turn that same love into armor. And I was ready to wear that armor for as long as it took. The calm before the storm. After that night, there was a strange quiet. Weeks passed without incident. I started to think maybe she'd moved on, maybe she was finally getting help. But I should have known better. Because 3 months later, in the dead of winter, she came back one last time and brought hell with her. It was December 14th, a Sunday. We were putting up Christmas decorations with the kids. Lily had just hung a glittery snowflake she made in art class, and Evan was running around with a Santa hat too big for his head. For the first time in months, the house felt warm again, safe. Then at 3 a.m., the sound of shattering glass tore through the night. I jumped out of bed, grabbed the baseball bat from under my dresser and ran downstairs. Hannah was right behind me, whispering, "Oh my God, is someone inside?" And there she was. Melissa. In my living room. The back window shattered, her hand bleeding from the glass, her eyes wild. "Where are they?" she screamed, staggering toward the hallway. "You can't keep them from me." I blocked her path. "Melissa, stop, you're bleeding." "Shut up," she screamed, tears streaming down her face. "They're my kids, you brainwashed them, you made them hate me." Hannah called 911 while I tried to calm her down, but she wouldn't listen. She started grabbing at framed photos on the wall, pictures of us at the park, at birthdays, and smashing them on the floor. Each shatter was like a gunshot to my chest. When the police arrived, they found her on the porch, sobbing and screaming that I'd stolen everything. They took her into custody that night. She spent 48 hours in a psych hold. I thought maybe that would be the wake-up call she needed. But she came out worse. Within days, she filed a police report claiming I kidnapped her children. Then she told CPS that I was abusing them. Then she went online, posting long Facebook rants accusing me of being a control freak who stole her family. Some of my relatives, including our own mother, believed her. Yeah, my mom. She called me one night and said, maybe if you'd helped your sister sooner, she wouldn't have gone off the rails. That one cut deep. Hannah told me to block everyone, but I couldn't. I kept trying to reason, to fix things, but you can't reason with someone who's rewritten the story in their head. Then, out of nowhere, I got a call from a Nevada number. It was Tony, her ex. He sounded nervous, chain-smoking through the phone. Listen, man, he said, I don't want any drama, but Melissa's in bad shape. She keeps saying she's gonna make you pay. She's been talking about showing up at your job, doing something crazy. You need to be careful. I asked where she was. He said he didn't know. She disappeared again a week ago after finding out he was seeing someone new. But he said something else that made my stomach drop. She's pregnant. At first, I didn't believe it, not until I saw her again. 3 weeks later, Melissa showed up sober this time. Hair brushed, wearing a maternity dress, visibly pregnant. She asked to talk. Hannah didn't want to, but I agreed, thinking maybe, finally, she wanted to make peace. We met at a cafe near the courthouse. She looked calm, too calm. That eerie kind of calm people get before they drop a bomb. She sipped her coffee, smiled faintly, and said, You know, it's funny. Everyone thinks you're this perfect guy, but I know the truth. I frowned. What are you talking about? She leaned in, her voice cold. This baby might be yours. I froze. What? She smiled wider, like she enjoyed the confusion spreading across my face. Yeah, Hannah might be raising my kids, but guess what? One of mine is yours. I laughed in disbelief. You've lost your mind, Melissa. That's impossible. But she didn't stop. She said she'd prove it. that she'd destroy my marriage and get her family back. I walked out before I said something I'd regret. Hannah didn't even flinch when I told her. She just said, "She's trying to ruin you, Mark. Don't let her." But something in me broke that day. It wasn't just anger anymore, it was exhaustion. Years of chaos, lies and fear, and now this. So I decided to end it, for good. I contacted a lawyer, Rachel Adams, and explained everything, every report, every visit, every message. She listened quietly, then said, "You've been incredibly patient, Mr. Bennett. It's time to protect your family legally." We filed a restraining order, tightened the custody arrangement, and presented evidence of her harassment: texts, videos, witness statements. When the judge read the file, his expression said everything. Melissa was ordered to stay 500 feet away from us and the kids. She screamed in court, tried to rush at me, had to be restrained by bailiffs. That was the last time I saw her face in person. Because 2 weeks later, she went online and posted a story claiming I'd stolen her kids and slept with her husband. The post went viral. Neighbors whispered, coworkers stared. Even my boss called me in, awkwardly saying, Mark, maybe lay low for a while." But eventually, the truth came out. CPS publicly cleared us. Her pregnancy claim fell apart when a DNA test showed Tony was the father. She lost what little credibility she had left. The weeks following that viral post were some of the darkest days of my life. It didn't matter that every word she said was a lie, people believed it. And once a lie spreads online, it takes on a life of its own. Within days, Melissa's post had thousands of shares. She painted herself as this tragic, misunderstood mother whose cruel brother stole her children and turned them against her. She said I'd brainwashed Lily and Evan, and that Hannah had manipulated her with money. She even attached an old photo of us from before she left, smiling together at a family barbecue, to make her story look credible. Friends, relatives, even old coworkers started messaging me. "Hey, is any of this true? I don't know what's going on, but maybe you should talk to her." Every time I opened my phone, I felt that familiar rush of nausea. It was like my private life had been ripped open and put on display for the world to dissect. But what hurt most wasn't strangers' comments, it was the people who knew us, people who should have known better, my mother included. She called again one night, her voice trembling. "Mark," she says, "you kept her away from her children, did you?" I bit my tongue so hard it bled before I answered. "Mom, you know I didn't. You've seen everything she's done." "I know, honey, but she's your sister. Maybe she just needs. She needs help, Mom, not sympathy, help." And I hung up. That was the last time I spoke to my mother for almost a year. The hardest part was explaining everything to the kids. Lily was old enough now, almost 8, to notice things. One day, she came home from school quiet, her eyes red. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Hannah asked. Lily hesitated. Then she whispered, "A kid at school said my real mommy doesn't love me because I got taken away." I froze. I wanted to storm down to that school and demand to know which parent had been gossiping, which kid repeated it. But Hannah gently put her hand on my arm and said softly, "No, we handle this differently." She knelt down in front of Lily. "Sweetheart, your mom had problems, grown-up problems that made it hard for her to be safe. But you didn't do anything wrong, okay? She loves you, she just doesn't know how to show it." Lily nodded but didn't say anything. That night, she crawled into our bed and whispered, "Can I stay here tonight, Daddy?" Daddy. That was the first time she'd ever called me that. And it wrecked me. A few weeks later, Rachel, our lawyer, called me with a tone I hadn't heard from her before. "Mark, something big just happened." Apparently, Melissa's social media post had caught the wrong kind of attention. A reporter from a local news outlet had fact-checked her story and found massive inconsistencies. Her timelines didn't match court records. The restraining order existed. CPS had confirmed in writing that no abuse ever occurred, and the husband affair claim easily disproven through the paternity test. Within 48 hours, the same platform that tore me apart started turning against her. People began commenting things like, "Wait, didn't the court give him full custody because she abandoned them? There are police reports, she's lying. This woman needs help, not followers." And then the hammer dropped, the news article. It was titled, "Local Woman's Viral Story About Stolen Children Proven False After Court Records Surface." They didn't use our full names for privacy, but everyone local knew who it was about. The story detailed her past arrests, missed hearings, and medical records showing substance abuse. It painted the real picture, not the fantasy she built online. I thought that would be the end of it. But Melissa didn't fade quietly. 2 weeks after the article dropped, I got a call from Tony again. "She's losing it, man," he said. "She's been showing up at my job screaming about you, about the kids. She's saying you ruined her life." Apparently, after the DNA test confirmed Tony as the baby's father, he refused to take her back. She spiraled badly. That night I checked my front cameras like I always did before bed. Around 2:40 a.m., I saw headlights slow down outside our house. A figure stumbled out, Melissa. She stood there in the snow, staring up at the window of the kids' room. She didn't knock, she didn't scream. She just stood there for almost 10 minutes, sobbing. Then she left. I didn't report it, I couldn't. Because for the first time, she didn't look angry or dangerous. She just looked empty. 2 months passed without another word. The kids were thriving again, therapy was helping, Hannah was calmer, and I was finally sleeping through the night. Then one morning, I got a call from Rachel. Her voice was somber. "Mark, I'm sorry to tell you this, but your sister's been arrested." Apparently, she'd been found living in her car outside of Reno, intoxicated, the baby in the backseat. CPS took the baby into custody immediately. Tony refused to get involved. It was tragic, really. All that chaos, all those lies, and for what? To end up alone in a parking lot, clutching a bottle and blaming the world. For a long time, I didn't know how to feel. Part of me was relieved. Another part, the part that still remembered the sister who used to protect me from bullies when we were kids, felt sick with guilt. Because as much as she destroyed everything around her, she was still my sister. Just one I couldn't save. When my mom heard about the arrest, she called me again. This time she was crying. "Mark, I'm so sorry. You were right. I didn't want to believe it, but I see it now." I wanted to stay angry. I wanted to tell her that her denial nearly tore our family apart. But when I heard her voice, so fragile, so broken, all I said was, "She needs help, Mom, not hate." After that, my mom started coming around again. She visited the kids, helped Hannah with school pickups, and finally, for the first time, called me a good father. That simple sentence undid years of resentment. 6 months after Melissa's arrest, the court granted me permanent guardianship of Lily and Evan, no longer temporary, no longer conditional, permanent. My name went on every school record, every medical form, every legal document. They were mine, officially and forever. At the hearing, Rachel smiled and said, "Congratulations, Mr. Bennett. You've done something most people wouldn't have the strength to do." Hannah squeezed my hand. The kids were waiting outside the courtroom, coloring in a notebook. When I came out, Lily ran up and asked, "Are we really yours now?" I knelt down and said, "You've always been mine, sweetheart." Time has a way of healing quietly, without you noticing. A year after everything, our home feels peaceful. Evan's talking up a storm now. Lily's in 3rd grade, loves science and wants to be a vet for bears. Hannah's been promoted to head nurse at her clinic. And me, I finally quit my night shift job and started working remotely, so I can pick the kids up from school myself. Sometimes, though, I still wake up in the middle of the night and think I hear knocking at the door. But when I look outside, it's just Duke asleep on the porch. We haven't heard from Melissa since her sentencing. She got a year in rehab, followed by probation. The court says she can write letters if she stays sober. She sent one last month. It said, "I'm sorry for everything. I know you'll never forgive me, but thank you for keeping them safe. Tell them I love them." I didn't show it to the kids. Maybe one day, when they're older. For now, I just keep it in my desk drawer. A reminder that love can be messy, painful, and complicated, but still somehow it survives. It's been 3 years since that night. My sister left her kids on my doorstep. Sometimes it feels like a lifetime ago. Other times it feels like it happened yesterday, like I can still hear that knock at 3 a.m., the sound that changed everything. If there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that family isn't about blood. It's about who stays, who fights beside you when the world tries to tear you apart. Our lives now are quieter, simpler. Lily is 9, Evan's 6. They both have the same bedtime routine every night: warm milk, one story, and a hug. Lily insists I tuck them in with the same phrase every night: "You're safe, you're loved, and you're home." It started after one of her therapy sessions. Her counselor, Dr. Patel, told her to find an affirmation that made her feel secure. I still remember the first time she said it, soft, unsure, like she was testing whether she believed it herself. Now she says it with certainty. And every time, it breaks me a little in a good way. Evan's come out of his shell too. He draws constantly. Dinosaurs, rockets, sometimes messy stick figures of Mom, Dad, and me. He still calls me Uncle Mark sometimes, but lately, Dad slips out more and more naturally. Hannah and I decided not to correct either of them. We just let it be what it is, love, in its own shape. A few months ago, I got a letter from the county court. It was a formal notice: Melissa Bennett versus the state of Oregon, petition for visitation rights. For a moment my heart stopped. I thought, not again. But when I read the rest, it was clear this time was different. Melissa was petitioning for supervised visitation, not to take them back, not to fight for custody, just to see them under supervision once every few months if I agreed. Part of me wanted to slam the door on that chapter forever. But another part, the part that remembered her standing outside that night crying in the snow, couldn't. So I spoke to Rachel, our lawyer. She said, "It's entirely your decision, Mark. No one would blame you if you said no." Hannah was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "If she's really getting better, maybe it could help the kids someday, but only if it's safe." After a few weeks of thinking, I agreed, on the strict condition that it would be supervised by a court therapist and only happen if she stayed clean. When I told Melissa through her attorney, she cried. For the first time, she didn't curse, didn't blame, didn't yell. Just said, "Thank you." I didn't do it for her. I did it for the kids. Because one day, when they're old enough to understand, I want to be able to tell them that I tried to do the right thing, even when it was hard. The first visit happened in a small therapy room at the family center. I didn't go in, I waited outside, but I could see through the glass. Melissa looked healthier, thinner, pale, but calm. She wore simple clothes, no makeup, hair tied back. The kids were nervous at first, clutching each other's hands. Lily hid behind the therapist's chair. Then Melissa knelt down, tears already running down her cheeks, and whispered something. Lily didn't move at first. Then slowly she stepped forward and hugged her. Evan followed, clutching her arm tightly for a moment before pulling back. They talked for maybe 15 minutes. The therapist said later that Melissa apologized sincerely and didn't try to make excuses. She just said she was sorry for everything. When it ended, Lily ran straight to me and said, She said she's getting help, Daddy. Is that true? I nodded. Yeah, sweetheart, she's trying. And for the first time, saying that didn't feel like a lie. That visit was 6 months ago. Melissa's still in rehab, working at a halfway house nearby. She sends letters to the kids once in a while, short, gentle ones, full of small things like "I'm proud of you," or "I saw a rainbow today and thought of you." Sometimes Lily draws her pictures back. Evan, not yet. And that's okay. Healing happens at its own pace. Hannah and I have since bought a small piece of land outside the city, a quiet place surrounded by pine trees. We're building what the kids call the forever house. Every nail, every wall, every corner of that home feels like a second chance, something we earned through pain but kept through love. Last month, the court officially closed the Bennett custody case, permanently. No more appeals, no more hearings, no more paperwork. The judge, the same one from our very first hearing years ago, smiled and said, "Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Bennett, thank you for standing where so many others fall. These children are lucky." When he handed me the final document, I didn't realize I was crying until Hannah wiped my cheek with her thumb. She whispered, "It's finally over." But it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like the beginning of something we'd finally earned: peace. We celebrated that night at home with pizza and ice cream. Lily made a family award out of cardboard. She wrote to Daddy and Mommy for being the best forever parents. Evan drew all of us as superheroes. He gave me a cape. We laughed, cried, danced around the living room until Duke barked in confusion. And when the kids finally went to bed, Hannah and I sat outside on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, watching the stars. "You know," she said, "you could write all this down, like one of those Reddit stories you read to me. Maybe someone out there needs to hear it." I smiled. "Yeah, maybe I will." Looking back now, I don't feel anger anymore. Not at Melissa, not even at the people who doubted me. I just feel gratitude for the life we have, for the two little humans who call me Dad, for the woman who never once stopped believing in me. There's a quote I read once that stuck with me. Sometimes the family we build is the one we were meant to have all along. That's us, not perfect, not traditional, but real. And if I've learned anything, it's that blood may tie us together, but love is what keeps us there. Epilogue 3 years later. Today, Lily turned 10. We threw a backyard party with balloons, a homemade cake, and all her friends from school. She told everyone she wants to be a child therapist when she grows up, like Dr. Patel, so I can help other kids not be scared. Evan's learning to ride his bike without training wheels. He fell twice today but got up both times, laughing, yelling, "I'm okay, Dad." As I watched them, I thought about that night again, the one when everything started. The trash bag of clothes, the tears, the uncertainty. If someone had told me back then that all of it would lead here, to this laughter, this love, I wouldn't have believed them. Life doesn't always give you what you ask for. Sometimes it gives you what you need. That night, after the kids went to bed, I got one last letter from Melissa. It said, "Mark, I know I can never undo what I did, but I want you to know I'm finally clean. I'm working at a women's recovery center, helping moms like me get back on their feet. I'll never ask for more than the chance to prove I've changed. Thank you for saving my kids, and maybe, in a way, for saving me too. Mel." I read it twice, folded it carefully, and placed it next to the first one, the apology I could never bring myself to show the kids. Then I went upstairs, peeked into their room, and whispered the words that had become our ritual. "You're safe, you're loved, you're home." And for the first time in years, I believed it completely.